Hey, brother.
Hey, brother.
So, The Wizard of Oz, one of the most famous and best movies of all time,
Yeah.
1939. But it's kind of like a musical family film. Uh, the topic itself is pretty terrifying,
hmm
and it kind
Yeah.
of lends itself to be a different genre. I thought that we might be able to rewrite The Wizard of Oz as a horror film,
Oh, yeah.
just like a
It already is.
hardcore. Do you say
It is a
it
horror
already
film.
is a horror film?
Yeah. Um,
It kind of is.
it kind of is a horror film. Yeah. Uh, yeah. So rewriting it as a horror film, I
Doesn't
feel like
change it very
it's.
much.
Yeah, I don't think it does too much. I mean, I think it. I think it's. It's. I mean, there's a part in the movie where the witch lights the scarecrow on fire.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
another part where flying monkeys come in and rip him apart.
yes, yeah,
And yeah, then that, like, it's such an interesting thing because, like, water, which is like the thing that gives life, ends up killing the Wicked Witch. Like, she's
yeah.
allergic to this
And she
life-giving
like
thing.
she melts too.
Yeah.
Like a lot of what happens in The Wizard of Oz almost lends itself to be like a body horror, like
Yeah.
like a hardcore
Yeah.
kind of like. And it has a lot of the tropes of a horror film. Like doesn't it in the beginning? Doesn't Dorothy run off and go see a fortune teller, who like kind of
Yeah.
gives her a little glimpse into the future, and like it, fortune teller's a scam artist, but in a horror
Yeah.
film it would be an actual fortune teller who actually like you know gives her
Yeah.
some kind of warning that she doesn't heed.
Yes. Well, if you want to make it really interesting, what you do is you make him a fortune teller who's a scam artist because
Yeah,
that's how he makes his money. But in reality, he's actually a real fortune teller.
like
But
Whoopi
telling,
Goldberg in Ghost.
yeah, but being a real fortune teller doesn't really make you a whole lot of money. It's
Right.
easier making it as a scam artist and just telling
Yeah.
people what they want to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, is he a scam artist fortune teller who's also a gypsy, like in Thinner, and he's like basically put like a curse on Dorothy? So he's not a fortune teller.
Yes.
He's just like a warlock who does
Yeah.
this thing. And then the
Thinner is
wizard
exactly the movie I was thinking of for
is
the
the
gypsy.
wizard actually a head, which is like what makes why he's like the wisest person in all of Oz, but he doesn't have a body, so he can't actually leave the area. He's stuck there, and then people are coming to him like for advice and for like things, and it's
Yeah.
annoying to him that he has all these stupid people bothering him all the time, and he can't escape. Like, like, is that
Like the
what the
wizard.
horror film is? Is it a horror
Well,
film where like basically everyone's kind of stuck being who they don't want to be? This guy who wants to be really tough is made out of straw, can fall apart at any time. This guy who's actually really tough is cowardly inside and can't do anything about it. And this other guy who's uh it's weird because it's all about toughness with the three guys. The other guy who's tough is can't move. So you couldn't hurt him even if you wanted to because he's made out of tin, but he can't
yeah.
move. He's frozen in place.
Huh. That's interesting. That's more like psychological. I was thinking
Yeah.
like the other direction where it's like they want a literal brain and a literal heart.
Oh. Oh. Yeah.
And it's I mean they could even
Yeah.
be going about it the wrong way at first,
What
where it's
what
like
what if they already have one because Dorothy killed the Wicked Witch of the East, and so they take something from her. And the wizard's like, "Oh, you've already killed one of them. You can take, like, they take her heart or something." And
yeah.
now Dorothy has to kill the Wicked Witch of the West and Glenda in order
Why is she
to,
gonna kill Glenda?
because the witches are the only one who have like the parts that are
Parts
magical
that are
where you can,
reusable.
yeah, that you can take from them because they can't die or whatever. You can take it from them and then plant it into somebody else. So Dorothy's friends, who are like her farmhand people, are the
Yeah.
ones who need these things from the witches.
I do like the idea of them having like harvesting the parts from the witches,
Yes.
because I mean the original film kind of pulls that where it's like, oh, you've had it all along, you know, like you've always been smart, you've always had a brain, you've always had a heart.
Yeah.
And they could still do that in the horror version, but it's like you've always had it because you killed the witch, and you can always just use her brain.
Yeah.
You know, like she started
Yes.
out dropping a house on a witch, and
Yeah.
it's like, well, there's your brain and your heart right there. Like you could just
Yeah.
harvest that. I don't know exactly what to do with the courage thing.
You give them guts.
You, oh my gosh,
Yeah, you
yes,
give them the guts.
yeah, yeah. Man, no, there's a lot in. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
aside from the literal brain, the literal heart, and the literal guts, like there's a lot that lends itself to horror. The movie opens with a tornado with a twister.
Yeah.
They drop a house on somebody. Um, yeah, the scarecrow, like he gets ripped apart at some point. They're after these body parts. The flying monkeys are terrifying.
Yeah. The flying monkey
Um,
scared the bejesus out of me as like when I was a kid.
yeah, yeah, and I mean the witch. I mean, you know, you just change the tone a little bit. It's still a witch, and it could be very very frightening. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think that the question at that point becomes like the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion. The Lion too. The Lion could be scary. Um, are they still like friends? Because in a horror version, and they're wanting body parts basically.
Yeah.
Um, is Dorothy actually like becoming friends with these things, or is she just kind of like joining them because she has no choice and she's in this like hellscape, has no idea
Yeah.
how to get back to Kansas, and so it's like I either join these guys and try and help them harvest these body parts, or
Yeah.
I'm stuck out here with like a witch
I
on my tail, you know?
I think that's where maybe like the wizard comes in,
Yeah.
where because she could be accumulating these people, and the wizard can tell her like these are the three guys that are like gonna get you home, but
Yeah.
they need these things to complete themselves in order to
Yeah.
do it. And maybe those things were stolen from them from the witches in the first place.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? So it's like Glenda flying in on her bubble. She ain't so nice. She ended up stealing the Cowardly Lion's guts.
Glenda and her bubble.
Yeah, with her shaky, creepy voice.
I've seen that actress in other movies. That she just
And
sounds like that. That's just
that's
her
her
voice.
voice. Yeah.
She wasn't doing like a witch voice.
I know.
Weird.
Does she
That is
sing a
creepy.
song in that movie? She sings a song, doesn't she?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Would
think
the
so.
music would the music stay in it if it was a horror film?
Yeah, like a
Would it be
horror
creepier?
musical?
Would it be creepier if there was still music in it?
I mean, I think it
Yeah.
just depends on how you play the music. Her singing, yeah, that would still be creepy.
Yeah.
But then like the actual music would be just one of those, out of tune pianos that only fits in horror films and like westerns where like there's the guy playing in a saloon.
Yeah.
Um, Something like that. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't think to keep it a musical. I just assumed it wouldn't be a musical anymore if it were like a down and out horror film, like really just trying to terrify you.
Yeah. It's almost like it's a difficult thing because they used to make movies for children that
Yeah.
were terrifying to children.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they were like The Never-Ending Story is a scary movie to watch.
Yeah.
And it's a kids movie.
Yeah.
And like there's a lot of those. There's like the Dark Crystal and there's Labyrinth and
Yeah.
The Wizard of Oz is one of them, where this is a kid's movie, but it's also really scary to watch when you're a kid. It's scary watching the witch like fly around on her broomstick, like spelling out like one of those like crop duster planes. It's like I love you,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I'm gonna get you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that there was value in that. Like it's the grim fairy tales kind of thing where
Yeah.
there are scary parts in like Disney movies. There's scary, the forest scene is like kind of scary in Snow White, and the
Yeah.
transformation scene and all that. Um, and I think that there was like kind of value that they saw in that, where it's like we need to teach kids that there is kind of a reason to be afraid of the dark. uh,
Yeah.
at least up until you get to be like an adult, and now you're big and strong and you can handle yourself. So if you come across the wrong person, you at least know what to do. But as a
Yeah.
child, you need to be afraid of the dark.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is value in like scaring a child a little bit, being afraid of the unknown.
Yeah. It's yeah, so it's something they don't really do anymore too much, I don't think.
We should bring it back,
Yeah,
and we'll
bring
bring it
back
back by starting with a horror
scare.
version of the Wizard of
Yeah,
Oz.
you're gonna start. What are you gonna start a foundation? Let's scare children again.
Let's scare
Foundation.
children. Let's scare children.
Yeah, let's make our children's movies scary again.
Yeah, yeah, it's for a good cause. I'm sure I can get a lot of parents on board with that.
Is
Um,
the theme still the same? Where it's kind of a theme of like you want to run away from home because you think there's something better out there. Well, then you get
yeah,
away from home and find out that like actually it's nice being around these people who care about me.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think that that's still a theme that would work in a horror film. It's
Yeah,
a theme that might work in like a Hansel and Gretel type of. Uh, I mean, it's the same story, really.
yeah,
It's like that with most horror films. I think,
yeah,
where it's like, you know, or like Little Red Riding Hood, where it's just like staying on the trail that you know, and then it's like, well, maybe I go this way, and then
yeah.
something bad happens. So it's like it could still be the same theme.
But but here's how it ends. So the three get their things. The Cowardly Lion gets his guts. Tin Man
Yeah,
gets his heart. The Scarecrow gets his brain. And
yeah.
then they deliver Dorothy to the Witch of the South. And the Witch of the South takes something from Dorothy and kills her.
Oh,
That's right.
okay. What does she take from Dorothy?
I don't know.
Her feet.
Maybe she takes Dorothy's like youth,
Oh.
or something like
Hmm.
that, or Dorothy's innocence. Like you could even make it something that's a little bit more whatever it is.
Symbolic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would
Yeah.
have to kind of tie into like why Dorothy's running away in the first place.
Yeah.
Uh, and I mean, innocence is kind of the reason why when you're a kid and things are actually not that bad at home, you want to run away from home because you think like, oh well, it would be better if I could do what I want to do and I could eat candy all day long,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just play with my dog and not have to worry
Yeah.
about all this nonsense. Whereas it's
Yeah.
like, no, that's not actually what it's going to be like. Like you're going to actually go out there and you're going to meet a bunch of people who want to take advantage of you,
Yeah.
because you're innocent and they can get away with it. And those are the first people that you're going to bump into, are the ones who are looking for somebody to take advantage of.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of what the Witch of the South would be. Is she's the one who takes advantage of naive people who wander into Oz, um, looking for an escape from their lives.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm trying to think of some way to like tie it in.
Yeah,
Uh, where like I like the idea of it being her innocence, her because it's also like her ignorance, her naivete
mhm,
that she's taking away. The reason why, as a kid, you want to run away is because you don't know any better. You don't know that it's actually worse out there, and your
Yeah.
parents are just looking out for you. So it's like in taking away Dorothy's innocence, um, Dorothy is now vulnerable because she's still a child, but also no longer naive. So it's like she's going out into the dark, she's going out into the world knowing that it's dangerous and
Yeah.
knowing that there's nothing she can do about it.
Oh, yeah. So that's yeah. So okay. So then Dorothy. So yeah. So they deliver Dorothy to the Witch of the South,
Yeah.
and the Witch of the South is like, before I can let you leave, like I do have to take something from you, you know. And
Yeah.
Dorothy's like, well, like what is it? And she's like, your innocence. And Dorothy will be
Yeah.
like what? Well, like what do you mean? Like what is that? Like what's it gonna feel like when you take that from me? And she's like, I already did. And Dorothy
Yeah.
goes back home
Okay.
because
Okay.
like through the journey now, Dorothy now knows, oh, the world is actually a mean place
Yeah.
with mean people in it that don't have your
Yeah.
best interest at heart. And it's like, so it's like the Witch of the South is basically like running the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's one thing that I would change. There's
Okay.
uh, an epiphany that I had in
Hmm.
that in a horror film, if there's going to be a consequence,
Yeah.
um, then like what the witch might take from Dorothy
Yeah.
is like a taken your innocence,
Yeah.
and now like you can't go home. Um,
Oh.
so if it is sort of like as a child, there's that safety of home,
Yeah.
and then like kind of coming out of that innocence and realizing that the world is a dangerous place, and now you can't go back home.
Yes.
Then like that would
So
kind of be the consequence. That would be like what
so
she takes from her.
so she can show Annie Am and Uncle Ben. What's his name?
Uncle Ben from Spider-Man and
Okay.
Papa Kent from Superman
Yeah. So
and Martha
the
from Batman.
the Witch of the South shows Annie Am
Yeah.
what Dorothy has done, the murders, and that's why Dorothy can't go home. Do you know what I mean?
Look at how terrible your niece is.
So yeah, like,
Yeah.
but it's one of those situations where it's like, if, and she could even be like, I haven't shown them, but like if you ever go back home, I
Yeah.
show them what you did. And it's one of those, like, it's kind of like when somebody, they're like a small town person, they move out to the big city, and they do things that they aren't
They do
proud
what
of,
they
and
have
they,
to do.
yeah, and they can't go home because there's like a
Yeah.
degree of shame there, like they lost their innocence and they're
Yeah.
not the person they used to be, and they can't face the people they love and tell them, like, I turns out I'm not who I thought I was.
Yeah.
And that's what Dorothy goes through.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and if we did want to kind of stick with the way things work in the original movie,
Yeah.
I never read the book, but I'm assuming the book.
Yeah.
The shoes.
Hmm.
The shoes, you know, could be very symbolic in this way because the shoes belong to the witch. She dropped a house on the witch.
Yeah.
Now the shoes are on Dorothy. Dorothy is now literally walking a mile in the witch's shoes.
Yes.
And the shoes is how she gets back home. She taps her heels back.
Yeah.
So the witch at the end is saying, like, what you need to give to me now are the shoes. And the
Yeah.
shoes are her way back home. Like, her literal, physical way back home. So it's like,
Yeah.
you have to give me the shoes back. And she's like, I need the shoes to get back home. She's like, that's not an option for you. Like, I helped you out. They delivered you to me. I need to take something from you. It's the shoes. And
Yeah.
so she takes the shoes from Dorothy. Dorothy has lost her innocence. She's walked a mile in the witch's shoes. She
Yeah.
realizes that it's a dangerous world, and now she loses the shoes, so she can't get back home.
Oh. Does Dorothy turn into the Wicked Witch now of the East?
I was playing with that a little bit.
Yeah. Does she tell her, like, if Dorothy's like, no, I got to get back home. Does the witch of the south tell her, like, the wicked witch of the east doesn't go home? You know?
Yeah,
And it's like
yeah,
you've now turned into the monster that you destroyed at the beginning of the movie.
yeah, yeah. There are some people that would kind of be like, well, it's a little typical, but I think symbolically it works. It's
Yeah.
like, um, usually the loss of naivete. I mean, it can lead to corruption. You know, the witch doesn't start a witch. She started just a little girl too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but when you see the way the world is,
That's right. That's right.
you
You
can
guys,
lose that.
you all think about that, okay? The Wicked Witch of the West, that's somebody's daughter, okay? You think about that. That's somebody's daughter. You think about it.
I do like the idea too of like the Scarecrow and the Tin Man and the Lion being just like a little bit off,
Yeah.
um, because they don't have these pieces. Where it's like the Scarecrow has literally lost his mind, so he's kind of
Yeah.
like he's a little nuts, he's a little crazy, and like the Tin Man is actually kind of apathetic to other people because he's lost his heart.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know exactly what you do to a lion, but lions are pretty scary. Uh,
I feel like if you had a lion though on your team who didn't have any courage to like fight
yeah,
back, it would be kind of like a pointless team member.
yeah, yeah. Oh man, it's yeah. No, I think that works. I think that's a really kind of a creepy take on the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
It still kind of fits with everything that was in the original Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, a little bit. It's a little bit more horror filmy. It doesn't end. Kind of ends like a horror film, where a lot of them don't end on a high note, but on a low note.
Yeah, yeah. There are consequences to your action. Glenda the Good Witch we can keep exactly how she was in the original movie,
Yes,
but
equally
everything else we
creepy.
change.
Yeah.
Well, I like that. I like the Wizard of Oz horror film. I think we can move on. Um, there's a movie that we need. I think that we need a Thanksgiving movie. Um,
Yeah.
there are movies that I guess take place during Thanksgiving. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is kind of
Yeah.
the only film that comes to mind for me. Um, but Die Hard as a Christmas movie. I've talked to you about this before. There's a debate about Die Hard being a Christmas movie. Is it or is it not? And what you said was it's not. And the reason for why is because it's not about Christmas. And it's like any movie could take place during Christmas, but it's not a Christmas movie unless it's about Christmas.
Yeah.
Uh, along those same lines, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is not about Thanksgiving. So it's not really a Thanksgiving movie. Is there a Thanksgiving movie? I don't know if there is. There's nothing that comes to mind.
I mean, if there is one, I don't know it. I can't think of what it is.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I'm sure there is one though.
I mean, I'm sure
I,
Hallmark
yeah,
has made a movie.
Hallmark has 120 Thanksgiving movies.
So, but because there's nothing that I've heard of, I'm assuming there's not like a great one. We need a Thanksgiving movie. So would we be
Yeah,
able to write a movie that's about Thanksgiving?
I think you could write a movie that's about Thanksgiving. Uh, and I think you do kind of what Thanksgiving is, which is it's people that are supposed to be family and loved ones getting together
Yeah.
and acting like family and loved ones.
Yeah.
But obviously most families have their problems. And that's really it. So I mean it could just it would be just a character piece. I mean, you could make it a comedy or you could make it a drama, and it's a
Yeah.
character piece about these people who are either estranged or
Yeah.
have conflict, and they're basically coming together. Everyone's coming together for Thanksgiving because, you know, the father or the mother has something where it's like this is basically her last Thanksgiving, and everyone knows it.
Yeah.
And now you've got like ex-wives and ex-husbands in the same at the same table together. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it is. I do like that. It's an estranged family for one reason or
yeah,
another, and it is a rekindling of that relationship,
yeah,
which is sort of what I like. Maybe not what Thanksgiving is about, but what's important about Thanksgiving, like what it is that that Thanksgiving's supposed to be. Um, it brings the family together. It reminds them that we're a part of each other, and it's something to be thankful for. You know.
yeah,
So yeah, I do like that. Like it could just be that it's Thanksgiving dinner, and I don't really know what exactly to do with it though. Like
yeah,
it,
yeah. I think. Can I go on a little rant of what annoys me about Thanksgiving?
yes,
Okay, so Thanksgiving. Well, first and foremost, what Thanksgiving is it's an excuse for people to get together,
yes,
and
yes,
that's what every holiday is.
right,
It's just an excuse for everyone to get together, and there's like an obligation behind it to force people to get together because otherwise we're lazy about it.
yeah,
Okay, what I see Thanksgiving as, though, is it's you bringing yourself, whatever that might mean to you. Maybe it's your culture, maybe it's just uh, your artistic expression of who you are as a person. It's you bringing
mm,
yourself into this group environment.
okay,
So I find it silly that Thanksgiving is about turkey, stuffing, and cranberry sauce. That has nothing, no one's signature dish is
okay,
turkey or stuffing. You're
yeah,
not bringing anything of yourself
yeah,
to it. Why are we doing that? Like if for me, I'm gonna bring a lasagna to Thanksgiving.
yeah.
That's because I can make a lasagna, and when I tell
You make a
people I
pretty
make
good lasagna.
lasagna, yeah, I think it works out pretty good. When I tell
Yeah,
people that, like, no, I make lasagna, they're like, oh wow, you can make a lasagna. That's like impressive. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I do it. It's an expression of myself. I like
yeah,
Italian food. I like lasagna. I make lasagna my own way. I bring it. I don't
yeah.
care for turkey. Nobody does. Why are we doing it like you should be making your signature dish that says something about who you are. And it's like if you're Italian, you like Italian food, bring an Italian dish because it's a representation of yourself. Like if the
Yeah,
pilgrims were Irish, they might be bringing corned beef, and potatoes.
yeah,
But it's like instead, like maybe the pilgrims brought a turkey because they had guns, and turkeys are really hard to hit unless you
yeah.
have a gun. It's hard to
Right.
catch these stupid things in the woods. But if you have a gun, it's a lot easier,
Yeah,
and like Native Americans might have brought like something else, some kind of a corn dish because they were like experts at making corn.
yeah.
So they're like, it's a representation of who they are. Why are we still doing that? I'm not a pilgrim or a Native American. Why am I doing turkey
You're
and
like, I'm a
corn?
lasagna.
Yeah, I'm a lasagna. I'm a spaghetti and
That's
meatballs,
yeah.
is what I am.
That's an interesting point.
Right?
Yeah, it's hmm.
Maybe
I
that's
don't
what
know.
maybe that's the conflict of the thing is that no one made a turkey because they were saying like, oh, like bring your signature dish, everyone. And that's another thing too. Every holiday, if you go to someone's house on Christmas,
Yeah,
you don't have to bring anything. It's
right.
nice if you do, but you don't technically have to bring anything. Thanksgiving, you're supposed to bring something.
Yeah,
Food. You're supposed to bring food on
yeah.
Thanksgiving. It's like a hodgepodge. It's a crock. What's that thing called where they do a crock pot? Potluck. It's a potluck.
Oh,
It's a crackpot. It's a crackpot.
It's a crackpot. Yeah, it's a potluck. Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I like that as sort of the maybe the conflict in the film is that like everybody's supposed to bring something, and so
Yeah.
everybody brings something. They all bring their signature dish,
Yes.
and because nobody was told or nobody was assigned a
Yes.
turkey, nobody brought a turkey,
Yeah.
and so there is no turkey.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And like you could have a funny scene where he's like, where like the host is like, like Ted McGillicuddy, of course. Ted,
Yes.
like Ted, I told you to bring a turkey, and Ted would be like, no, you told me to bring like whatever I wanted to, and then you could
Yeah.
have like Brian be like, no, you actually told me to bring the turkey, and she's like, well, why didn't you?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
forgot. He's like, I don't know how to make a turkey.
I thought Ted was gonna bring
Yeah, yeah.
it.
I was hoping somebody
Yeah,
else would
no,
do it.
yeah, that's funny. I mean, it could even, yeah, it could be just that like
So it's
Ted always makes the turkey.
it's it's like
Um,
it's a dysfunctional Thanksgiving because there's no turkey, there's no stuffing, there's no cranberry sauce, because
right.
everyone expected somebody else to do it, and it's a dysfunctional Thanksgiving in the midst of a dysfunctional family.
Yeah, yeah,
That's now realizing like, okay, well, Thanksgiving actually isn't about turkey. It
yeah,
never was.
yeah,
It's about you bringing your dish, and every dish someone brings should represent who they are personality wise as a person, and what uh like the person who brings the spicy dish should be a little bit more combative,
yes, yeah.
you know and the person who brings
A
you know
salad.
yeah, the person who brings a salad should be a little bit more hippie, uh and the person who brings like the steak should be a little bit more Texas.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh.
And then the total drunk, whatever their dish is just burnt.
Yeah, it's
It's crispy.
it's got, what's it called on it? What's that stuff that they put on it, vermouth or something like that they light on fire?
Oh,
No, like actual alcohol,
yeah.
brandy.
Just toasted.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, no, I like that. I like that um, the dysfunctional dinner with the dysfunctional family, and it is
yeah,
um, them still finding something to be thankful for, and them still like really kind of enjoying dinner, because it's like finding something to enjoy in the dishes, finding something to enjoy about the dinner, is a parallel to like them kind of rekindling their relationship with each other, where it's like we're a part of each other, and like you're a little burnt, you're a little not quite my taste, but like it's not bad, and it's like I'm thankful that it's here, I'm thankful to have you. um like there are those parallels there. It's a little cheesy, but I think that you could actually make it work,
yeah.
and make it pretty sentimental.
Well, I mean, what's common in life is you'll have people who are at odds with each other, family members or whatever it might be,
Yeah,
and they don't talk for a long time. Then there's a wedding or a funeral,
yeah, I
and
was
all of
gonna
a sudden you
say
see
a
them both
tragedy.
together, and it's because it puts things into perspective. So
Yes.
this is the same way where like they are heading towards. They could be heading towards both. They could be heading towards a funeral and also heading towards a wedding, and you could even
Yeah.
have it where like these two people who are getting married, their relatives are also like interconnected somehow as well, not by blood relation obviously, but they're interconnected some way as well, where they haven't spoken to each other in years because there's these two business partners that had a falling out, and
Yeah.
now it's like you know your parents and my parents hate each other,
Yeah.
but because this sort of person here is going to pass away, everyone's coming together for that and for the wedding situation as well, and just figuring out like how do we make this work when there's
Yeah.
no turkey for Thanksgiving.
Yeah. 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 It actually works really well. 'cause, yeah, it is sort of a you know, like it's not perfect. Nothing's ever perfect, but like, but it's good, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And there are people that you can have a conversation. Like there are people that maybe you just don't even really get along with.
Yeah.
Um, Not even necessarily family. Uh, but if you sit down and have a conversation with that person, uh, you'll find not like common ground, but you'll find like value in the conversation. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I've had conversations with people that like we did not necessarily get along with each other, but we just talked about something that they were passionate about,
Yeah.
or like a hobby that they had, and it was such a nice conversation. It was such a good conversation. Um, Ultimately, like people, people need to be around people, you know.
Yeah.
And then like that's kind of like family is just sort of that unit where it's like these are my people that they're a part of me, and yeah, there is that sort of connection where it's like you can really just find value and find connection with anybody, even people that you don't necessarily agree with or get along with.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a very writer's outlook on life, in that like every person you meet and every conversation you have is of value when you're a
Yeah,
writer.
yeah.
You know, because yeah, I thought of a funny line where the guy's like, "There's no turkey. I've been eating turkey for Thanksgiving for the past 50 years." And then the other guy doesn't like him. It's like, "You've been a turkey for the past 50 years." Oh,
it's
that's
such
a it's so it's bad, but it's so good,
it's such a yeah it's such a like old fashioned kind of
right? Marx
like a Don
Brothers.
Rickles.
Yeah.
Or like Don Rickles will say
Yeah.
like nine
Yeah.
out of 10 things he says are hilarious, and then the 10th
Yeah.
thing like doesn't make any sense at all, but you're still cracking up about it for some reason. That's sort of what that is. He'll say like nine
Yeah.
things, really funny zingers, making fun of the guy, and then he'll be like, "Look at you, you've been a turkey. You've been a
Yeah.
turkey for 50 years." It's like, well, that last one didn't make any sense, but that's still kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's delivery. I don't know.
Yeah. I do. Yeah. So it's like, is this kind of like what was that movie called? August Osage County,
August Osage
where
County.
where there's just a bunch of people sitting around a table for most of the film.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking of it in that, not in that genre. I thought of it
Yeah.
more like a comedy.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like I was thinking like all the examples I could think of are dramas. But yeah, August Osage County or like The Big Chill.
Yeah.
Big Chill's pretty heavy. Um, but yeah, it's like just them in a house, and it's like a bottle script, and it takes place in one night.
Yeah.
It's Thanksgiving. So yeah, it would be kind of like that. There'd be a lot of like, it'd be dialogue heavy. Um, so yeah, it'd have to be pretty witty, like a lot of like kind of witty dialogue and just creative conversations.
Yeah. There's another route you can take too, which is you start with like, maybe it's like the mother who's dying. You start with
Mm-hmm.
her, and makes a request to one of her kids, like, I want everyone together this Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Then they're now kind of going through this like, father of the bride style gauntlet, where they're going to like these, the different people in different places, and like trying to
Yeah.
get everyone together, and
Yeah.
maybe most of it's falling apart. Then you could actually have it like towards kind of the end, the sort of father of the bride wedding now scene, where
Yeah.
everyone actually shows up and it all comes together. And the failure is still that no one actually brings a turkey.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of showing the dysfunction of it. This is a dysfunctional to its core
Yeah.
family. They can't even get Thanksgiving right.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's kind of, you could go about it more that route, so that you're following more like one or two characters, and they're kind of going on the adventure, And then you're trying to
Yeah.
see like now it's that build up to like what is this Thanksgiving even going to look like? Who is actually going to show up?
Yeah.
And you don't know who's going to show up or not. Like, will they fail at this thing because they don't get another chance at it?
Yeah. That might also kind of allow for the characters to be a little bit more out there, a little bit more like caricatures.
Yeah,
Because it's like if you're following two characters throughout the film, then it's like they need to be a little bit more grounded, so that you can relate to them a little bit.
yeah,
Uh, and then every character that they come across is like a little bit bombastic or a little bit, like
yeah,
memorable. Um, Whereas if it were all like in one location and it was everybody there for the entire film, then that might be a little much.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, like that route could open up a lot of possibilities.
The cool thing is you could have it where they go to like, their brother's house,
Yeah.
and it could be like, the wife and her husband isn't even really, he's not like super in the know.
Yeah.
But she's like, okay, just so you know, like my brother hasn't left his house in 10 years. He's like,
Okay.
what? And they open the front door and it's just boxes. And then she gets on her hands and knees and starts crawling through the little hole on the
Yeah.
ground because he's one of those
Yeah.
hoarders that has
Yeah.
hoarded so much that he had to build like a tunnel through his
Yeah.
house. And the husband's like, wait a second.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like that's so it's like how do you get this guy to leave this house that he hasn't left in 10 years? It's not even easy to like get into the house to even get to where he is.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you can create like interesting characters like that and interesting obstacles like that.
Yeah.
It's funny, like the movie that comes to mind that kind of feels a little like that is Four Christmases with Vince Vaughn
Oh,
and Reese Witherspoon.
yeah.
Um, where yeah, like they're going from place to place and just coming
Yeah.
across whatever obstacle that place
Yeah.
presents.
Here's where I think it's here's where I think if you're going to go ridiculous, you make it a drama or a
Okay.
dark comedy where like the cool thing about a dark comedy is sometimes someone will watch it and half the people don't even realize it's a comedy. Like people will watch The
Yeah.
Graduate and not realize like there's a lot of comedy in The Graduate,
Right. Right.
But it's so dramatic and so real. So
Yeah.
it's like, do you do it if you did it as a comedy and the guy's a hoarder? It's slapstick over the top, which is fine. But
Yeah.
if you do it as a drama, it's horrifying. There's something horrifying about it.
Yeah.
It's like it's more like a dive into humanity and
Yeah.
the fact that we cannot help ourselves, and it's actually a representation of like the family itself. Like you guys cannot help yourselves but to be destructive.
Yeah.
And even this guy and it's like you have maybe one who's always getting in trouble outside.
Yeah.
He's always getting into like bar fights or something stupid,
Yeah.
and it's like and they don't know if they can get him because he's in jail right now for a bar
Yeah.
fight.
Yeah.
And then you have another one who's destructive because he can't get out of the house. So it's like
Yeah.
there's no win here. It's all just falling apart.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I think that whichever genre you go down,
Yeah.
it can still be a very it can still be deep and it can still kind of be a good representation of just humanity, and also like because you can't help yourself, because people can't help themselves, because people are who they are, and there's a degree of you can't outrun nature. It can kind of highlight the importance of family,
Hmm.
and of that being something to be thankful for. Like it can kind of just all tie back to that theme, so that the movie is about Thanksgiving, and you know. I do like the idea also of it being like about Thanksgiving, but still no turkey, because
Yeah.
Thanksgiving's not about turkey.
Yes.
Um, at least
Yeah.
the way
It's
that we're saying.
it's yeah. That's an interesting. That actually might even be the theme too of like when you can't help yourself, sometimes somebody else can help you,
Yeah,
and like that might be the
that's kind of the
theme of
point.
the whole movie of like you can't. These people are um, basket cases, but
Yeah,
but when they get together, they're actually one whole complete solid unit,
yeah,
and the whole like um, yeah, like maybe they get the guy out of jail so he can come to Thanksgiving. They rescue him from it, and they get the other guy out of his house,
yeah,
and they get I don't know, they get the sister away from the abusive boyfriend.
yeah, yeah,
They like all these kind of like things where it's like you have such a there's such a dysfunction there, but they're good. They're good together. They just haven't been together for a while because they're tired of dealing with each other.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It kind of, yeah, it does sort of go hand in hand too with like the symbolism of the original Thanksgiving story,
Yeah.
where it's just like, when they couldn't figure things out themselves, like they came together, like, and like, the Native Americans taught them how to uh, like farm corn and stuff like that, and it's like, we're able to be more than the sum of our parts when we come together, and that's sort of what this Thanksgiving movie would be about. It's just like these family members are more than the sum of their parts when they actually come together and act like a family.
Yeah. But then at the end, they murder each other. No. Like
Because you want to stay realistic.
every movie, every movie ends like that.
Well, I think we can move on. So there's okay. You actually brought this up to me. You were mentioning your favorite shots,
Oh
just like
yeah,
a shot in a film. Um, and
yeah.
I don't know if you even said any like specific shots. You were just talking about the
No,
shots in particular.
yeah. I think I was thinking more like a scene than a shot, but I mean
Okay.
shots as well. But I mean I have a top pick, but I'm not going to say my top pick right now.
Okay.
What I will say is one of my favorite scenes of all
Mm-hmm.
time is from Lawrence of Arabia.
All right.
And so and there's a it's the scene is this. There's a guy who they're about to like sack this town or city or whatever. This whole movie has built up to them crossing the desert so they can sack this city.
Yeah.
But the people can't get along because a person from one tribe has killed a person from another tribe,
Okay. Yeah.
and they're like, "We need justice for this." And Lawrence is like, "Why don't we do it afterwards?" Like, "No, no, 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 no. We do it now, or we don't go."
Yeah.
So he's like, "Okay, fine." So he goes, "Who's the guy? Who's the murderer?" And the murderer turns around, and that scene, that shot of the guy turning around in his face and then Lawrence's face of recognizing who it
Yeah.
is burned into my brain because earlier in the movie this Lawrence is traveling through the desert and he's like,
Yeah.
"Where's this guy?" And they're like, "The desert took him."
Oh yeah. He
And
goes
Lawrence is
back
like,
for him.
"I'm going back for him." And like, "You go back, you die." Like,
Yeah.
it's Allah's will. The desert took him. Leave him.
Yeah.
And Lawrence
Yeah.
goes, "I'm going back." So Lawrence goes back for this guy. And this is like
Yeah.
after we've already been traveling through the desert for like 20 minutes. We're
Yeah.
traveling through the desert. like you're
Yeah.
there with them, your throat is dry just
Yeah.
through sitting through this 20 minutes of the desert. He gets the guy, he rescues him. He brings him back. Everyone is like, "I can't believe you pulled this off."
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then this guy murders somebody and he has to kill this guy that he saved earlier.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's kind of a like it's Allah's will. You should have left
Yeah.
them before, like a Final Destination style thing. Like you cheated death, but death is coming for you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and the look on this guy's face and the look on Lawrence's face when he recognizes, like, I spent 20 minutes
Yeah.
rescuing you for you to do this.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like, you owe me.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
like, I was like, oh my gosh, man. It's burned into me. I've never seen. It's one of those things where, like, the build up to it. It's an entire movie built up to this moment that
Yeah.
happens. And
Yeah.
that moment is kind of it slowly but surely becomes Lawrence's downfall. Where it's
Yeah.
like the first failure that he hits in a long stream of failures.
Yeah.
What do you got? Try and beat that.
No, I mean, I can't. I can't beat that. You know, I was thinking more of like shots. Shots that just kind of like stick with me, or shots
Yeah.
that
Okay.
work so perfectly. And what came to mind actually surprised me.
Okay.
Um, there's a movie called The Diary of Anne Frank.
Okay. I don't know if I've ever
And,
seen it.
okay, it's black and white.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where Anne is speaking to Peter. And, like, they share a kiss. They have a kiss with each other. And they're teenagers. They're supposed to be, I think, like 13, 14 years old. And it's this very slow, very, like, innocent kiss. And it's in silhouette. And it it's maybe I feel like the most perfect kiss scene in a movie
Oh. Yeah.
because it's like, how do you show the innocence of two teenagers having their first kiss?
Yeah.
You show it in silhouette,
Yeah.
and it's the only kiss scene I can think of that's in silhouette. But it like just
Yeah.
stuck with me, and it almost feels more sentimental
Hmm.
because it's the whole privacy thing. It's the whole privacy factor. Like when there's a very intimate thing that happens in art, in film,
Yeah.
like there's a trick that they'll use to kind of like put separation between the audience and the subject, so that you don't feel like a voyeur.
Yeah.
And a good example of it is in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Okay.
There's an episode where Buffy needs to give her little sister some bad news,
Yeah.
and it happens through a window. And you can't hear her actually give the bad news. You just see it happen.
Yeah.
So it gives you that separation. And along those same lines, two teenagers sharing their first kiss with each other.
Yeah.
There's that separation. It gives them some privacy in that it's done in silhouette. I think it was a
Yeah.
brilliant shot.
Yeah. Gosh. Okay. Yeah. So you're thinking. Yeah. You were thinking more like a shot, like an actual just this shot.
A shot. Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking a little bit more like a scene.
Okay.
If that. Yeah.
There's a scene that I have in mind.
I'm almost betting your favorite scene is my favorite scene. I'm gonna bet.
I don't know if it's I mean, I don't know if it's favorite. It's just it's what comes to mind.
Okay.
It's what sticks in my head.
Yes.
But it's in a movie called Life is Beautiful.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And there's a scene toward the end
Yeah.
where the father is caught
Yes.
and he is going to be walked off
Mhm.
at gunpoint, and he knows his son is watching.
Yeah.
So he does a goofy little like
Yeah.
march
Yes.
so that his kid thinks that he's like joking around.
Yeah.
And that shot, that scene of him like walking
Yeah.
and doing it like silly, knowing that he's like walking to his death, that one sticks in my head like crazy.
Yeah.
That's, I think, an incredible scene.
The one I thought you were gonna say is, so here's my favorite of
Okay.
all time. hands
Yeah.
down, I think it's the greatest thing that's ever been put on film,
Okay.
is in The Village. When
Oh.
Ivy is at the door and she's
Yeah.
like, he's gonna come for me, and like the monster's coming, and
Yeah.
then Joaquin Phoenix comes over and gets her hand because Ivy's blind, so she
Right.
can't see that the monster's coming, but you as the audience know it's coming, and it looks like they make it look like it's coming. You're never gonna
Yeah.
outrun it. They have
Yeah.
it gives you that feeling of like it's over. It's too close. No one can get you now, and he
Yeah.
gets her, and I'm
Yeah.
like, that is the greatest. I guess that's kind of a shot too, but I think it's more like the scene as a whole of just from
Yeah.
her standing in the doorway waiting for Joaquin Phoenix to come,
Yeah.
and the monster being there coming towards her, and then Joaquin Phoenix like actually making it in,
Yeah. So
is the
that.
greatest thing ever put on film.
Yeah. That scene. It's a trick of the light, because I watch it every single time I watch it. It feels
Yeah.
like he's not going to make it in time,
Yes.
and it's a trick of the light
Yes.
where you see it coming in the background, and then it comes out of the light and it's in shadow.
Yes.
And then it comes out of the shadows into another light, so it feels like it got 10 times closer all of a sudden.
Yes. Yes.
It's brilliant. It's brilliantly lit. It's a great shot. And that the hand thing
Okay.
is such a good motif. They do it 3 times in the film. There's that time.
Yeah.
There's the time at the wedding.
Yes.
Where like they hear screaming, and she puts her hand out, and he grabs her hand immediately.
Yeah.
And then the third time is when she finds out that someone in the village has been stabbed,
Yes.
and she is like walking to his place with her hand out,
Yes.
and he doesn't grab it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's
That
him.
third time is also a brilliant
Yes.
scene. Really, really powerful.
Also, the best music ever made.
Yeah.
Quite possibly the greatest music in any movie ever is in The Village. And it's like, and I, like everybody else, well, most people I would say, because you're not one of them, I hate the ending of the movie. I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate that the monsters aren't real. I hate that they're not real. I would much prefer that they were. But still, spoiler guys, still one of my favorite love stories ever told in a film.
It's a great movie.
And it's got like my favorite like scene of all time in it.
Yeah.
It's so well done. It's ridiculous how well done it is.
The score is brilliant and gorgeous.
Yes.
That composer, James Newton Howard, is definitely in my top 3. He did also Unbreakable, which was great.
Yes.
He did I Am Legend, which was great music.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he did Signs, which I think is one of the best. I think that The Village is one of the best, and I think that Signs is one of the best.
Signs is great. I prefer The Village's music personally. I prefer it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're gonna go shots though, you got to go old school, and you got to go to like Phantom of the Opera and Frankenstein, and where they're actually,
like monster reveals.
Yeah, some of the monster reveal shots were just incredible. Or you got to go to like The General, with the train.
Oh my gosh.
Where the train, which was like. That was a real train.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy. They crashed a real train.
And like a whole bridge, and yeah. Man, yeah, there's some scenes from those old movies that just hit you so hard.
Yeah.
Just on an emotional level, like the horror films will kind of, they'll tense you up a little bit, just like from the scene, and early 30s was kind of weird. It was kind of interesting because the sound was like 1927 is when they started doing sound. That was the jazz singer, and in the early 30s it was the norm, where like a film would come out, it was in sound, but they didn't really. They were still kind of getting the hang of it.
Yeah.
So there would be movies from 31 that didn't have any music in it, like at all. So like Frankenstein and Dracula, they both came out in 31, and they don't have any music. Um, but there's like shots from those movies
Yeah.
where you just see like Bela Lugosi and he's like Dracula's just staring, and there's like light just on his eyes,
Yeah.
and it's like it kind of hits you, like it's sort of tense where you just you tense up just at the sight of it, and and the way I feel when I watch it now is like, man, this would be so effective if they had music along with it.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
and
Yeah.
I've seen like re-edits where they'll have all of the horror films, the old Universal horror films, and it's just a
Yeah.
montage of all these scenes with just this music playing over it. And
Yeah.
it's like, wow, these scenes are so much more powerful with music over them. Like these guys are actually kind of scary looking.
Yeah.
Man.
You know what else I love? Clockwork Orange. When it's just
Yeah.
zooming in on Alex,
Oh, that shot's incredible.
is like, I'm like, why does this feel so powerful?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
A lot of, yeah. But you could probably go to a lot of Kubrick, and you can probably go to a lot of Christopher Nolan for just
Yeah.
shots where you're like, what? How'd you do that? Or,
Yeah.
that are just, they're just powerful shots.
Yeah. I mean, see, I almost feel like when you brought this up, when you said this, I felt like I needed to exclude some of the long takes where it's just like it's one shot and it's a super long take.
Yeah.
It's like that doesn't count.
Does
Like
it?
I have
Does
to
what
exclude
about
that.
how do you feel about the Goodfellas long shot?
It's good. It's great. It's done. It does exactly what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
But it's not like what comes to mind for me when I mention a long shot though is like Children of Men.
Yes.
The scene in the car.
Yes.
Uh, that scene is incredible, and
Yeah.
I walk away from that feeling like, holy crap, like how did they do that?
Yeah.
But I also feel like that's cheating to pick that.
I don't think it is, because it is a shot.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like the Goodfellas long shot. I'm not. I feel like I'm not as impressed with it as everybody else is. Like I'm like,
yeah,
you followed two people walking. You know.
yeah. No, I mean,
I mean,
yeah, it was
even if
it was an
even if one of the
impressive.
even if one of the chefs in the kitchen wasn't really even doing something correctly, like no one's gonna notice. You
Yeah,
just kind of gotta like hit your mark a little bit, and you move. I mean, I'm sure it was
yeah,
really difficult to get. I don't doubt that, but I'm just like I don't really see why everyone's so flipped out
yeah.
about this shot.
It was an impressive shot, but it also um, I don't feel like if you ask me about a shot that sticks with me or a shot that comes to
Yeah,
mind, like that's not one that comes to mind.
yeah,
If you bring it up, then it's like, yeah, it was good. It was a good shot. It
yeah,
was impressive, but it's like that's not something that spoke to me. That's not something
yeah.
that was like emotional for me.
Well, the one
um,
the one everyone thinks of is Shawshank. Dun
oh yeah,
dun. You know,
yeah,
the
yeah. I
camera's
think
panning
of
up on him after he escapes.
yeah, yeah,
That's one of the big shots. Well, then there's Jaws with Roy Schneider. The
yeah.
Jaws look.
I miss that, man. I miss there being like just a shot in a film that
Yeah.
like it's just the T-Rex stepping in the mud,
Yes.
in the rain. Like just it's just this one shot, but it it just sticks with you, and you see it
Yeah.
again, and it's like, oh my gosh, all the memories.
Well, you have to you have to build your movie up to that point in order for the
Yeah,
shot to stick with you.
that
Otherwise,
takes
it's just
patience.
like, yeah, because it's like the reason why the Shawshank is so powerful is because we were stuck in prison with this guy for like 2 hours,
Yeah,
and it was horrible. You know, and he finally escapes, and you feel the same way he does. You're like, oh my
yeah,
gosh, I'm finally outside. I'm not
yeah,
stuck in that place anymore. And it's like you feel the same way Roy Schneider does when the shark attacks somebody, because everyone keeps being like, there's no shark. It's fine. We're fine. We killed the shark. It was a
yeah,
boating accident. And then the little boy gets killed right in front of him. And it's like, oh my gosh, there's a freaking shark.
yeah, yeah,
Like, like this thing, like, it's Jaws is an interesting one because it's like, if you're tracking it and you're like, where's the inciting incident? And if someone says the inciting incident is anywhere other than the boy getting killed, I think they're wrong.
yeah,
That's the inciting incident. And the lock-in is when he gets on the boat. Now he's locked in because you can't get
Interesting.
off the boat. If you get off the boat, the shark's in the water. You stuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But like everything else is leading up to like, well, maybe we don't know what it is. We don't know how Chrissy died. Maybe it was a boating accident.
yeah,
Maybe that was the shark. Maybe we got the shark. Maybe Ben Carson or whoever that guy was, Ben Garner, who they found like the head in the boat with the shark's
yeah,
tooth that Richard Dreyfuss dropped.
yeah,
Maybe that wasn't, maybe the guy just crashed his boat. We don't
yeah,
know. But then the
yeah,
boy gets killed by the shark and you're like, yeah, now we know. Now we know.
yeah. Huh. Man, you shouldn't have brought up M. Night Shyamalan because now I'm just thinking of a bunch of scenes from his movies.
What? Hitchcock. What about
Just,
Hitchcock?
I mean, Hitchcock, yeah.
The
Um,
birds with the guy with the eyeballs pecked out.
The Birds has some great stuff. Psycho, like that overhead shot when he comes out and stabs him at the top of the stairs.
Oh yeah.
Like that one really stuck with me.
Yeah. Everyone,
Yeah,
everybody makes fun of that scene because the guy's like stumbling down the stairs, and
yeah,
I find it horrifying.
yeah,
Like the look of it, it's capturing the feeling more than the reality. Obviously, you
yeah.
wouldn't be stumbling backwards downstairs for a minute, but
Right.
it feels that way when you are,
Yeah,
And it's like,
yeah,
yeah, he captures that just the way you feel so well.
yeah, yeah. Man, Unbreakable. The the scene toward the end at the dinner table or
Yeah.
at the breakfast table, and he like shows this kid the newspaper, and they don't say anything to each other. That's
Stop talk.
that's
Stop talking about M Night Shyamalan.
that's it, man. I mean, come on, like he's done some of the
He's
best
got
shots, man.
he's got
He's
some
done some
great
of the best
stuff.
shots.
What? Yeah. I think.
You know what does scene comes to mind a lot.
What?
Just like if I think about just a scene that's I don't know, iconic, I would put it into like montages of like movies. Um, the roulette scene in Run Lola Run. Do you remember this? Run Lola Run. She
I
goes
remember.
in
Yeah, I haven't seen it in so
to
long. Yeah.
she goes into a casino to try and like win money, and
Yeah.
she just puts all the money on like one number in roulette, and
Yeah.
it lands on that number, and then she puts the money down again on the same number.
Yeah.
And so like they throw the ball, and she just starts
Screams.
screaming, and then
Yes.
all the glass breaks
Yes.
in the place. That
Yes.
part, that scene, like I think about that scene a lot. Just randomly, it'll pop into my head. That is such a
Yeah.
good scene.
Oh man. Yeah. Gosh. Yeah.
It's too much.
It's
Too many
interesting.
movies.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting when you think about the things that got burned into your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you gotta backtrack and be like, why did it get burned into my head? Because it's just, if you just saw the shot all by itself, you would be like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. But
Yeah.
when you watch it with the whole movie, it has such an impact.
Yeah.
And it's like watching Joker, uh, The Dark Knight outside of the police car, like with his hair,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
like cool. Okay, that's cool. But watching it with the movie,
Yeah. With
backing
context.
it up, and you're like, that is so cool.
Yeah.
Now it's stuck in my head.
Yeah. It makes such a huge difference. There's I mean, an example of that, one of my favorite lines in a movie is actually in a silent movie. It's in City Lights.
Okay.
The very last line, he says, "You can see now," and she goes, "Yeah, I can see. I can see now." And it's a great line. But it's like, not unless you've seen the movie. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
So you have to have watched the movie for that scene to like be powerful.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of my favorite lines in any movie.
Wow, favorite line.
I mean,
My My favorite line is from the movie Twister, where the guy goes, "It's coming," and then Bill Paxton goes, "It's already here." Or from Aliens, when Bill Paxton goes, "Game over, man. Game over."
Yeah. Yeah. Any Bill Paxton or Bill Pullman line.
Yeah, the Bill Paxton lines are my favorite. When he's like, "No money for clothes, man." Terminator.
Yeah, he did a lot of like weird, goofy things that just like, I mean, it worked. It worked.
Yeah, he's in. He's sprinkled in a lot of movies. I think he's in Top Gun. He has like a little cameo in Top Gun kind of before he hit. But like he's really sprinkled throughout a lot of films.
Yeah, yeah, he's good.
Yeah,
he was good.
Yeah,
just a little weird with the delivery sometimes.
Yeah.
It works, It works. It works. It helps to have that persona, to have a character. I mean, I don't know if everybody feels that way, but like it does. It totally helps. It's why like if there's a quotable line or a line that everyone talks about, it's not uncommon for it to be something like something that Jack Nicholson would say or something that Sean Connery would say.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's not really what was said so much as who said it or how they said it.
Yes.
I don't know if we want to get into lines. We you want to call it? We could try and get into lines in a later episode.
What line? Yeah. What are your favorite movie lines?
I mean, we could go for another 20 minutes if we go.
Yeah. Up to you.
I think we can call it for now. We'll save that for another time.
Yeah.
So I think those were some good pages. So until next time, I'll see you later, brother.
All right, brother.